Hello students. In our earlier video lecture, we discussed about the economic importance of bacteria. We started firstly with understanding what is the basics of a bacterial cell. What are its modes of nutrition? What are its modes of reproduction, of respiration, and so on. Now, let us move on to the economic importance of bacteria. Bacteria is important in many different fields. In medicine, in agriculture, in industry, bacteria's importance in food spoilage, the importance of bacteria and plant and animal diseases, and finally, the importance of bacteria as a bioweapon. So we'll be looking into these aspects in this particular video. Let us start with the importance of bacteria in medicine. Often we visit the doctor with high fever or certain infection, and the doctor prescribes some form of antibiotics. What are antibiotics? Antibiotics. Okay? Anti means something that is opposite to, that is going to kill. The biotics, that is biological systems, some kind of biological organisms. So therefore, antibiotic is a chemical substance that is produced by a living organism which can stop the growth of some disease producing bacteria and fungi. Okay, so the first antibiotic was discovered by Alexander Fleming way back in 1929. So here you can see Dr. Alexander Fleming examining some petri dishes. These circular plates are used to culture microorganisms. What he found was he was trying to grow certain bacteria. Okay, so what we see here is a certain bacterial culture. Okay, these fine lines you see here, this is the bacteria. Okay, bacterial colonies. So by accident, okay, he had a contamination by a fungi, a fungus contamination, a fungal contamination. The fungal contamination, what he found the fungus to be? A Penicillium chrysogenum. Okay, Penicillium chrysogenum is a fungus. Okay, and he found this contamination on his bacterial plate. The interesting observation was this zone, you are seeing this particular area, right? Here there is no growth of bacteria. Okay, there is no growth of bacteria here. Why? That is what he thought about. So he expected that this fungus is secreting something, some kind of a chemical which is killing this bacteria. Okay, so he isolated the compound and he found that it was a chemical which he named as penicillin. Okay, and interestingly, when penicillin was injected into patients suffering from tetanus, diphtheria, and many other diseases, he found that these patients were cured of these disease. Okay, so this was way back in 1929, and that was the discovery of the first antibiotic by Alexander Fleming. Okay, penicillin, produced by the fungus Penicillium chrysogenum. Okay, the next antibiotic that was discovered was a streptomycin. Okay, streptomycin. It was discovered by the scientist Selman Waxman. Okay, Selman Waxman discovered streptomycin. From where did it come? It did not come from fungi like here, it was not from a fungi. It was from a bacteria. The bacteria was called Streptomyces griseus. Okay, Streptomyces griseus is the bacteria which is producing the antibiotic streptomycin. Okay, so most of the students they confuse here, so please pay attention that Streptomyces griseus is a bacteria which is producing an antibiotic, whereas penicillin is produced by Penicillium chrysogenum, which is a fungus. Okay, and this fungus is going to inhibit the bacteria, and here streptomycin is a bacteria which is producing antibiotic which is going to again inhibit the another bacteria. Okay, so it was used for the treatment of tuberculosis. Okay, streptomycin for the treatment of tuberculosis. Similarly, other antibiotics have been discovered like chlorotetracycline, okay, from Streptomyces aurificiens. Okay, this is also bacteria, right? Same streptomyces. Okay, streptomyces again it is a bacteria. Okay, species is different. Okay, aeroficians, griseus. Okay, these two are species but genera is the same. Okay, it is used for the treatment of typhoid. Okay, erythromycin produced by Saccharopolyspora erythrea. Okay, and what does it treat? It treats rickettsial fevers. Okay, these are certain kinds of antibiotics, from where they are produced and what diseases they are used for the treatment. Okay, generally what happens is that the antibiotic will kill the bad bacteria, the pathogenic bacteria, the disease causing bacteria, but it also kills the healthy bacteria, the good bacteria. Okay, so generally what happens these days, whenever the doctors give the antibiotics, they also give some kind of probiotic. That is, they say that please take some curd or take some bacterial tablets. Okay, so that the healthy bacteria will not die off. Okay, so it is desirable that the antibiotic should be very specific to the kind of bacteria it is killing. Okay, it should kill the pathogenic bacteria, not the healthy bacteria. It should not have other side effects like a headache and other kind of things. Okay, and it should be broad spectrum. That is, we hope that with a certain antibiotic we are able to get rid of different types of bacterial infections. Okay, another application of bacteria is in making anti-serum. Okay, what is serum? So you already know that when we sometimes go for blood test, okay, to a diagnostic lab, so they draw the blood. Okay, and then when they do their blood test, what they do is they have two things: either they allow the blood to clot or they allow the blood to not clot and just do the test on that one. Okay, so what happens generally, if there is a cut or wound on your skin, the blood will clot, right? It will become a dry mass. Okay, that is the blood clot. So if you collect the blood from a patient, okay, if you collect a blood from a patient and allow it to clot, okay, and then let the clot settle down. Okay, this is the clot is settled down in the tube, then whatever the liquid that is remaining in the tube, okay, That is called serum. Okay, that is called serum. Okay, serum is everything that is there in the blood minus the blood cells. Okay, because those RBCs, WBCs, they are all get trapped in this clot. Okay, and there are some fibers, that are called fibrins, fibrinogen. Okay, and in these fibers the cells will get trapped. That is called a clot, blood clot. Okay, so once the clot is formed, whatever that fluid, whatever that liquid is remaining, that is called a serum. So what is the importance of serum? Why we need this serum? For example, for example, for the production of anti-venom, okay, anti-venom. So what they do? Either it is a bacterial toxins or anti-venom. Okay, so in the case of anti-venom, they connect the venom from the snake. Okay, and they inject that into horse. Okay, they inject that into horse. Now horse is resistant to snake venom. Okay, so small doses of snake venom are given at regular intervals of time. Then what happens? The horse blood, it starts producing antitoxins. Okay, antitoxins. So you injected toxin, the horse produced antitoxin. So what is antitoxin? Antitoxin is antibodies or proteins which can neutralize the effect of the toxins. Okay, because toxins, okay, toxins are toxic. Okay, they are toxic, they are poisonous. Antitoxins, their role is to neutralize the toxins. Okay, so the blood is collected from the horse, and then it, allowing the blood to clot, then we get serum. Okay, on the top we get the serum like I showed here. And if the blood is not allowed to clot, okay, and we spin it, then what happens? Whatever heavier cells are there, they will settle in the bottom like this. Okay, and then what we get on the top is called the plasma. Okay, it is called the plasma. So either the plasma or the serum, both of them can be used in the production of the antivenom, and they are stored this way in the bottles. Okay, they are refrigerated, and whenever any person gets a snake bite, then this serum is injected. Okay, it is injected into the person. So these antitoxins, what they will do? They will go and neutralize the venom, the toxins that are, okay, coming in the snake bite. So for example, this is a commercially snake venom, that is, you see it is written as equine antivenom immunoglobulin fragment. Equine, what do you mean by equine? Equine means horse. Okay, that means this antivenom was, this anti-serum or antivenom was produced where? In horse. Okay, so let's move on to another way in which the bacteria are utilized, okay, for the production of very important medicinal compounds. Okay, by the method we call it as genetically engineered, that is a recombinant DNA technology. In short we write it as rDNA technology, that is nothing but recombinant DNA technology. So what happens for patients who are suffering with diabetes? In olden days, what they used to do, they used to collect the insulin from pigs. So they had to kill the pig. They used to harvest the pancreas of the pig and extract the insulin from them. So it was a very difficult process, and you will get very less amount of insulin, and that insulin will be available only for a few people. With recombinant DNA technology, what happened is the gene, the DNA fragment that is coding for insulin is isolated, and it is expressed inside a bacteria. And then the bacteria, what it does, it expresses or secretes that insulin, and that is collected and provided to the patients as a injection. Okay, so this is one example that you see in the market, humulin, human insulin, humulin. Okay, what is the source? Recombinant DNA origin. Okay, it is coming by recombinant DNA method. Okay, there are also things like blood clotting factor 8 that is used for the treatment of hemophilia. Hemophilia is a deadly disease in which the persons are having issues with blood clotting. Okay, so once they have an injury, the blood doesn't clot and there is a continuous flow of blood. It is a genetic problem. Another example is factor 8 in hemophilia B.